President Obama is proposing new initiatives to get the economy going. They include $50 billion for infrastructure projects, a $100 billion extension of the research and development tax credit, and also other tax incentives to encourage business investment. It will all be announced tomorrow. Now, the big question at this point, will these efforts actually create more jobs, which, as you know, is the key economic challenge this election cycle? Joining us right now to talk about all of this is Mark Zandi, chief economist over at Moody's Analytics. He was an unpaid advisor to the McCain presidential campaign and has advised as well the Obama administration. Mark, great to have you back with us on Street Smart. In terms of the plans that the president is talking about, do they make sense? Do you think it's the right path here in terms of helping out the economy, creating jobs?
Well, I think they'd be helpful if passed quickly, but I don't think they're a game changer. I don't think they're going to result in a lot of additional jobs, at least not in the next 6 to 12 months. But frankly, Carol, I'm not sure there are any policies that could be implemented that would make a big difference in the very near term.
You know, and that's a good point, Mark. I mean, the elections kind of screw things up. I mean, I guess my point is, if you take the elections, if you could take them out of the equation, would this be the right form of programs for a president, Republican or Democrat, to be pursuing at this point in the economic cycle?
Well, if I had my druthers, I would suggest two things. First, have Congress pass the small business jobs bill that's before them right now. That would help empower the SBA, the Small Business Administration, to make more loans to small business. I think that would be helpful. And most important of all, nail down what we're going to do about these expiring tax cuts or tax increases. If we don't do something, taxes will rise, and that would be very counterproductive. And that's creating a lot of uncertainty. I think doing those two things would be measurably more important than the three policy proposals that the president has put forth.
Mark, if we get those tax increases, how problematic would it be for the economy in your view?
Well, if all of the taxes were to rise for everybody, I think we'd be back in recession. I think right now the recovery is very fragile. If we saw tax rates rise for everybody, that would be a $300 billion hit to taxpayers. I think that would be too much to bear. If the president's proposal were implemented, that is, tax rates for upper income individuals to revert back to where they were in the 1990s, I think the recovery would remain intact. We'd make our way through, but it would be a close call, and I wouldn't advocate that. I wouldn't raise anyone's taxes in 2011, but I think we'd probably make our way through.
You know, Mark, you recently told us that the odds of another recession have increased to about 33%. At this point, is it smart to be even talking about a double dip, or do you think really when you think about it and what's going on, it's really unlikely?
No, I think 1 in 3 is, that is the odds that I would attach to a double dip recession in the next 6 to 12 months. I think that's meaningful. That's uncomfortably high. And if anything else goes wrong, I mean, if we do make a misstep with the tax cuts, if the European debt crisis were to flare up again, I think that would push us back into recession. And, you know, we're sitting here with a 9.6% unemployment rate. So if we go back into recession, we can get into some very dark scenarios, and there is no good policy response. So I think it is very important to be considering this and considering what policymakers should be doing.
At the same time, do we need to be careful not to read too much into maybe a month's load of weaker economic news? Because I'm looking at some of your recent research, and you say it's not unusual for the business cycle to pause at this point on its way from recovery to expansion. Is it good for us to keep that in mind as we go through these often daily data points?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not surprising to me that the economy has slowed as we made our way into the second half of this year. It's clear that the fiscal stimulus, the Recovery Act that was passed back in early '09, the benefit of that was going to start to fade, and we'd feel it about now. And also manufacturing, that we've seen very strong growth in manufacturing because of an inventory swing. We knew that was temporary. That wasn't going to provide a lot of juice. But I will have to say that the slowing that we have gotten in the last couple, 3 months is more than I had anticipated, in large part because of the effects of the Euro debt crisis on the stock market and on confidence. And therefore, we do need to be on high alert. It's not surprising that we slowed, but we slowed more than I expected, and it is a significant threat.
Well, you know, you talk about that Euro debt crisis, Mark, and you know that certainly played into the market activity, if you will, the downward market activity over in Europe and also here in the United States. There's lots of questions about whether or not we really do have a good handle of what's going on at those European banks. If you were a betting man, do you feel like the stress tests that they went through, that they really showed the accurate picture of what's going on at the European banks, or there could be some other shoes to fall over there?
Well, I think the European stress testing was an opportunity lost. I mean, here we went through some stress tests back in the spring of '09, and it was very therapeutic. They were very rigorous tests. They required the banks to go out and raise lots of capital. And at the end of the day, that ended the financial crisis and the financial panic. I don't think what the Europeans went through was nearly as stressful. The banks haven't had to raise as much capital. So I'm fearful that we haven't worked through this issue to the degree that we need to. And I would consider this as a significant risk to the expansion. One of the reasons why one would be nervous about going back into recession, because the European debt crisis is still playing out. It's not over yet.
Well, and also from your research, you say, the recovery remains tentative and nothing else must go wrong. I mean, nothing must go wrong. I mean, that's a tall order to fill at this point. Is it likely that nothing goes wrong at this point, or that's still up in the air?
Well, I would put the euro debt crisis, if that flares up, that would be something could go wrong to cause a recession. If we misstep on the tax code, that would be a reason to go back into recession. You're right. I mean, we're skating on thin ice, and we have to be very careful. And it does suggest a very important point, and that is that policymakers should remain aggressive. I think it's important for the Federal Reserve to really consider re-engaging with quantitative easing, and I think it is important for the administration and Congress to come together, pass that small business jobs bill, and keep thinking about additional things that can be done just in case the economy doesn't stick to script.
All right, Mark, so in terms of the political will, obviously the president wants to see his proposals go through. Do you think Congress has enough political will to actually go forward with them?
It's going to be close. I mean, I think with respect to the R&D tax credit, I think I'd give even odds to that. There's enough support for making that permanent that, even odds. The other two proposals, the infrastructure spending plan and the accelerated depreciation benefits, at this point, given the political landscape, let me put it this way. I'm not incorporating that into my baseline view of the world. I don't think the odds are high enough to incorporate that into my expectations about what will happen.
All right, we're going to leave it on that note. Hey, Mark, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Yes, thanks,
All right,
Carol.
take care. Mark Zandi of Moody's Analytics.